Hi, Lori here from Coast to Coast Craft Girls, coming to you from the West Coast. Today I'm going to show you some things that I've done and work on the Stampin' Up Grassy Grove stamp set. I love this stamp set because of the sort of wildlife my husband is very into. He actually hunts, and so he loves the outdoors and especially the deer. And so I thought this one would be a good one for him, and also just in general for a lot of men, but also for anyone that likes the outdoors. And I wanted to share with you, every time I get a new stamp set, which this is one that I've got, and I'm fairly new to Stampin' Up. So when I got this, I first thing I do is I just kind of play with it and try it out. And I actually wanted to share some of the things that I started with you, my first, second, third attempt at it, to show you that when you get something, play with it, give it a shot. And the first couple times you use it, it's not going to come out, well, not necessarily going to come out very well. And that's okay, because all you've wasted is, a piece of card and a little bit of time. So let me start with, this was my first attempt. And I started out by thinking, okay, well, you stamp the stuff in the back. And so I did the hillside, and which is this stamp, and then put in some of the trees, this stamp, and then I thought, okay, I got to put the deer in the front, and then I was going to ink the foreground and the sky. And as you can see, that doesn't work so well. So unless you die cut the deer out and layer it on top, this doesn't work too well. So here's my next attempt. So what I did on this one is basically the same thing, except I I didn't necessarily, well, I fussy cut the deer out, and then I laid it on like a mask, and I'll show you. Here's my little deer that I cut out, and I just laid on there, and then inked, and then stamped and inked around, and that looked better, but it's still not great because you can see, kind of around here, around the edges of the deer where that stamp really isn't quite right. So I didn't care for that either. So then I went on to a third attempt. And this attempt, I just skipped using this hillside stamp at all, which is kind of a shame because I actually really like it. And in this one, I created my own sort of mountains and ground just by taking some paper. And I'll show you the paper that I used. I just took some craft card and I basically cut a mountain shape. So let's see, I got it backwards. It was like that. So I just cut the mountain shape and used that on there, as you can see, and inked the sky, and then took this one and, went that way, and then inked the bottom. And then the bottom of this one, I just cut some wavy patterns and laid it on there. I think I did it this way, yeah, like that, to create the mountains and then the ground. And I like, and then I can stamp on top of it because the background wasn't so dark. And so the deer, I was able to, with a couple of different, I think I stamped it 2 or 3 times on top of itself. And that worked pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with that. But what I wanted to, and I can show you how to do that, and I will show you how to do that, how I did that. But I also wanted to try, and I'm going to kind of try it live. So we're going to play a little bit. I want to try and use this stamp. So I've got an idea, and I'm going to try it. I'm going to try and use a lighter ink. So let me get started. So when I start, first thing I want to do is I'm going to put down a craft mat because I do not want to get ink all over my cutting mat. And I'm going to use these to start with because I'm going to start by showing you how I did this one. So we'll leave that there for reference. Let's see if I get it where you can see it. And I'll work over here. Actually, I'm going to put it over there and I can work over here. So I got a piece of card. And like I said, you start with the mountains. So I'm going to put my mountain in there, just kind of like, well, let's see, there's the top. I want it fairly close to the top. So about there. Actually, I'm going to use this one because I want to use the ground as well. So we're going to go put it about there. I'll put that one there. Oh, let me get an ink blender. forgot one of those. And for the mountains, I was using kind of a little bit of a darker, sort of a medium, not a dark, but sort of a medium green. And you want to just kind of hold these and get the green in between. So kind of go up from the bottom and down from the top, and then just blend. And you can adhere these down with some, low-tack tape or some repositionable adhesive if you want. But I find it's pretty easy. I find it's pretty easy to just hold on to it, because I'm ultimately going to stamp trees and stuff in front of it. So if it's not perfect, like right here, I got a kind of a big splooge there, just kind of blend it. And if it's not perfect, it doesn't really matter that much, because you're going to put other stuff on top. You're just trying to get sort of a view of that. And then the other thing that I did with this one that I wasn't crazy about, which if I compared to this one, I kind of liked this green in the foreground more than that green. So I'm going to switch and do that green in the foreground, this sort of almost yellowier color. So let me, put that one aside and get the sort of yellow green. And I'm basically going to blend down from here, and I'm going to kind of blend up from the bottom. I'm trying to do this without blocking the camera, so I'm not sure if this is going to be great either, but we'll see, because it's a very different green than that background. But as long as you don't go over it too much, I think it'll be okay. If it looks terrible, well, like I said, it's only a piece of card. And I just thought today it might be fun to just kind of play and share how at least I go about trying out a new stamp set and just seeing what I can do with it and what I like and what I don't like. When I get a new stamp set, I try to use essentially all of the stamps, because obviously they're meant to go together. And so I try to use them all. And sometimes I found out, like in this case, where I put that hillside in this one, on there like that, it just didn't look good. So, but I've got a way that I think I might be able to make it work. So that's not bad. Let me go back to the background color and blend a little bit of that down. Kind of just to get, sometimes if you can get the two colors kind of to mix a little bit, it softens that line and just kind of makes the color look a little bit better. Like I said, I'm gonna ultimately stamp over the top of it. Maybe a little bit more in here. Kind of soften that line there. And if you got sort of a little bit of mixture, yeah, that's better, I think. I keep sticking my fingers in those ink pads. I have ink all over myself. Okay, well, that's not bad. So now let me I'll go ahead and do the sky while I've still got this out. So we're going to put some blue in. And on the blue, I kind of like to leave it a little bit almost splotchy, because it gives you the sense of clouds. If you get a little bit of white, you want to come down into the green of the mountains so that you don't have like a white halo around the hills. But if you get a little bit of white, you know, like here, I'll show you just a sec. Like here where there's a little bit of white, I don't mind that because it does give you kind of that hint of clouds in the sky where the sky's not solid blue. I'm in Seattle, so we don't get a lot of solid blue skies here. We get a lot of gray skies, but that's okay. So you get a little bit of white in there. It almost looks like clouds, so I kind of like that. It looks a little more realistic. This one I did a pretty good job of kind of mixing some of the white in, and I like that too. So now I'm going to use this stamp set to put in some trees and a deer. So I like this stamping platform. I'm going to move this so you can see what I'm doing. This is the Tim Holtz stamping platform, and I do kind of like this one for small stuff. Put the stamps out of the way. Get these up here out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Because this does allow me to stamp multiple times, and I'm one of those that rarely gets the stamp exactly the way I want it the first time. So we're going to start with some trees. I'll put some trees in here, maybe over there on the edge. And where, oh, there's my other trees. And this stamp set has two different kinds of sets of trees. So, and then also just think about where they stop and which land you want them on. So obviously if I put them up here, that's going to look a little weird because they're pretty defined to be on those hills that are so far back. So you kind of want them to end, you know, the bases of them to be in the foreground. So they look more like they're forward. Same with these. If I put them, you know, back here, it's going to look a little strange because they really aren't on that mountain. So the other thing to note is it looks better if you can kind of make them a little bit staggered so they're not all, you know, in a row, like little soldiers in a row. And I find stamping off the end also kind of makes it look a little bit more lifelike or realistic. So let's pick up the stamps. And then let me find my inks. Now, I tried to do, you can see this. Let me slide it over so you can see it a little bit better. I tried to do like, okay, let's stamp the bottoms of them, so the tree trunks, with a little bit of brown. And if you just kind of tap the ink pad at the bottom, and if it goes up in there a little bit, that's okay. But just kind of like that. And then put the green on the top. And like I said, I'm pretty new to Stampin' Up, and still working on collecting all my Stampin' Up stuff. So I do have ink pads from Spectrum Noir, which I use when I don't have the right colors in my Stampin' Up inks. So that actually looks pretty good. See how that one's off the edge? I personally kind of like that. I think it makes it look a little more, I don't know, realistic or not so formal in there. I think I might put these trees up in here too. I might add some more, because then I can still get that deer right in there, I think. Let's see. Yeah, he'll fit in there. So, but just keep that in mind as you're placing trees, of where, you know, what are you doing with everything else. So let me pick that up. And again, I'm going to put brown down at the bottom. Just at the bottom. And then put the green on the top. And if they kind of mix a little bit right there where they come together, it's fine. It all works. But it kind of, I think it looks a little bit better if you don't have the trunks of your trees being green like the top. I mean, it doesn't much matter, but I think it looks better. Now, I could have done a better job of running that brown further up, see here, but I think that's okay. At least it's a little bit. And I have to say, these Stampin' Up! Stamps are incredible. I usually struggle getting them to stamp correctly first time. I usually have to put multiple layers of ink, thus the stamping platform. But the Stampin' Up! Stamps, I have to say, are really good at getting a good impression the very first time. And then the deer is going to be the biggest, most foreground thing. So put that in. And I tried to just kind of place it right there between the trees. Let's give them a good coating of brown. Now with the deer, I may want to put 2 coats on just to make sure he gets nice and dark. Yeah, I think I will. But see, this is why I love my stamping platform, because if I don't get it right the first time, I can re-ink right over the top and guarantee that it's going to be right there in the same spot. I'm not going to have blurry edges. I don't have to try and, line it up and not get it right. See how much darker he is now? And I like that because it makes him really stand out. And that's sort of the point there. Now, the other thing that I like to do, and I did it in both of these, as you can see, you kind of put the foliage stamp or whatever, it's this stamp, kind of in that foreground, and it makes it, this one I got a little crazy, but this one, it makes him look a little more grounded in the front. So I kind of like that. So I think I'm going to try that on this one too. But I want it to be fairly subtle. So let me get it up here. Actually, I'm going to move it over because I think I'm going to probably be off the edge. And on this stamping platform, it's just kind of a plasticky almost base. So it's fine to stamp on the back because you can just wipe it up. So I'm going to take the same color that I used here. Let me find it. What was that one? And just ink it lightly because I want kind of a light impression. And I'm going to stamp it, but I'm not going to just really push hard. So I'm just going to kind of give it a quick stamp and look and see what that looks like. Yeah, I like that. And then if I'm going to move it, I always wipe it off because the minute you set it down, it'll still have residual ink on there and you're going to end up with smears. Now, again, you want to kind of not line these up like little marching soldiers. So let me get that on there. And again, you can take it. And this time I'm just going to kind of do a little bit. Like that. I didn't even ink the entire stamp because you can see it kind of trails off, because I'm going to come back in and do the rest of it down here, right off the end, so that you look like you have sort of multiple layers. So it doesn't look like just one little straight stretch all the way across the. This time I'm going to kind of dab it with my filthy rag to kind of take a little bit of the ink off. And then you get a little bit of a fainter impression. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that actually. And before I take it off my stamping platform, I think I will stamp a sentiment on there. And I happen to love the font on this Paradise Palms Happy Birthday. I think, I don't know why, but I just really love that font. So I am going to use that one. If I can get it off of there. There we go. And I'm going to put it, since the deer is on this side, I don't want to put it there because then it feels off balance. So if I put it up here, it feels like there's a little more balance to it to me, if you know what I mean, because we've got something here and we got something up there. Whereas if you set it here, everything's on this side of the card. It feels, you know, too weighted to that end. So I'm going to stamp that in. I think I'm going to use the brown because I'm going to mount it. Well, I could have used green. Well, that's okay. I'll go with the deer that way. I just really like this font from that. I hit it, stamped it too hard. You see what I did? Well, I may have to put some gems or something on there. Or I could blend some blue in there. That's probably what I'll do. What I did is when you stamp it like this, I had ink on the top and I pushed down this way instead of straight down. And so then the ink transferred from up on the top of that stamp right onto there. But let me see if I can take some blue. Oops, didn't get that very straight. Yeah, I'm just going to make it worse, I think. Yeah, that's not helping. Now I have to put blue all the way around. Well, that didn't really help, but yeah, not the end of the world. Like I said, if I decide I really don't like it, it's just a piece of card. So all I've done is wasted a piece of card and I can just start over. Do it again, which I'm going to do anyway because I'm going to try and use that hillside. So let's try that. So this time, instead of, I've got a new piece of card. So here's the one I just did. So here's the one I just did. So instead of doing these mountains, I'm going to try and use the stamp, and I'm going to try and use this little hillside in the background. So I may still put, I think I might still put a little bit of the mountain in there. So let me try that. Okay, we're going to do the same kind of thing. So just like that, let me get that darker green. And put some mountains in there. But we're going to make them fairly subtle. This is not the easiest to do like that. I'm trying to keep my hands out of the camera shot, and it's not the easiest to. Okay, that's good enough. So we're going to do that. Then I'm going to take the lighter version of that green and I'm going to stamp in my stamping platform. I'm going to stamp in that hillside. So let's try it. This thing is almost the entire width of the card. And it can go higher than, it doesn't have to be below. Let me slide this up so you can see. you don't have to put it down here so it's above the mountains. You can actually do it this way, because if you think about when you're looking out across a landscape, sometimes the mountains, you can't always see all the valleys. So it's okay to kind of slide it up pretty high so that you still see just the kind of the mountain peaks behind, but that hillside is back there. So let's take that, and we're going to use the lighter version of this green, because I really just want to get a hint of that hillside, because it's still in the background. So let's see if I can get this to show up but not be, well, it's not dark enough, so let's push a little bit harder, see if we can transfer a little more ink. Well, I don't know if I like that either, but let's go with it and see how it comes out. Maybe I should try it in the other green. Let's try and layer this. Like I said, stamp sets, you know, whenever I get a new stamp set, I just play. So it's not a bad thing to do, to just, you know, try it out. Try one thing, doesn't look right, try another. Oh, now that's really dark. Now see, I'm going to probably have the same problem I had the first time with my deer. Unless I can kind of, I might be able to position it so that it's not so bad. We'll try it. We'll give it a shot, but I like that green a little bit better over that darker. I think it looks a little bit better. We'll just give it a shot. Now, let's ink up some of that foreground and put in some sky, and then we'll go back to the stamping platform and stamp our trees and stuff. So, get my foreground with my green. This time I'm going to go right up into that hillside so that it's, because otherwise you can kind of see this color green through, and I don't really want that. I was looking at this hillside and thinking that it would be really nice to use in lots of landscape type things, where the hard part is if you're layering on top of it, you have to get things that you can either die cut and put on top, which maybe what I will do is I'll die cut the deer and just layer it on top, as opposed to trying to stamp it. That might be the thing to do. That looks pretty good. Now let me do the sky in some blue. Oops, flung that right across the desk. And if you can just blend right down on top of those mountains, it helps to keep it from having like that white halo around the mountains. Oh, that looks pretty good. You can also put a little bit of yellow in there to make it look like you've got the sun shining if you want. Now I'm going to bring my stamping platform back in. Put in some trees. and some foreground, and I'll see what I can do with this deer. So we're going to put some trees in. On this side, I'm actually thinking I'm going to put them right off the top maybe. And with this one, I'm going to try and get that brown just a little bit higher up. Let me get my green in there. Yeah, I like that, where it's almost going right off the top. Now on this side, I'm going to put some right here. And again, we're going to do the brown on the bottom and kind of going right up that middle. And then take the dark green of the trees, put in there. That looks pretty good. Maybe I'm just going to stick to these trees. So we'll just use these. And again, they're going to kind of go right off the edge here. Make it a bit of a pine or cedar forest or something. I mean, that's the fun thing with these sort of landscapey kind of stamps, is you can just play and you can put whatever you like. You can arrange it however you want. You do different things. And I do like it like this, where see how the stamp is right off the edge? And see, I can just wipe that stamping platform right up and it's all fine. Well, that looks pretty good. Let's see if I think I can get my deer in there. His ears kind of, get him right down in here. Yeah, that's going to work. And I'm going to do the same thing with that foreground, but I'm going to kind of make it a little bit here and there. I'll explain in a second. So then you've got this stamp, and we're just going to, over here, I'm actually going to kind of, let me get it up here so I can get to the bottom. And here I'm actually going to take it right off the bottom. So the only thing that's up there is like the little grass like stuff. You can't even see the bottom. It's just going to be the tops of these things. Let me get my ink pad. And I'm just going to ink the top because that's really all that's going to show. Don't want all that grass, the solid part on there. So we're just going to and then I'll put a little bit right there. So see, you don't have to use the whole stamp. You can just use little pieces of it. See if I inked the right end of it. And then I'm gonna, and you can also do it kind of at an angle, or it doesn't have to be straight across either. I mean, it's your creation, so you can do it however you want. Sort of your artistic creation. There we go. I might need just a little bit more right there. Slide that over. Maybe kind of like that. There, I think I like that. Now see how much more subtle those mountains are on that one than on this one that I did just a few minutes ago. Let's see if I can pick it up again. So this one, the mountains are far more pronounced, but with that hillside in there, the mountains have really receded into the background. I do kind of like it with just those trees and with a little bit of the ground sort of moving around or in different places. I like that too. But this was kind of fun to be able to use that other stamp, and I do think I like that. So I'm pretty happy with both of those. Again, I need a little sentiment. I'm going to try that same sentiment again. The happy birthday from the Paradise Palms, because I do really like that font. It's one of my, I don't know, it's one of my favorite little birthday sentiments. Let me get it down here. This time I'm not going to push it so darn hard. And again, I'm going to put it in this corner so it kind of is offset by the deer. I'm going to be a little more careful when I'm inking it. You know, what I may do is I may use my no, I don't want black. I was going to use my VersaFine, but I really don't want black. So I'm going to use this ink, and I'm just going to be a lot more careful so I don't get so much ink on the edges. And then I'm going to push straight down and not so darn hard. Maybe I'll wipe off that edge. So hopefully that won't happen. Ah, that's much better. Okay. Well, I'm pretty happy with that. So once you do that, and again, I'm just, as you saw, I was just playing, and this is, I have fun. I love playing with my inks and stamps and just trying different things out. And if I can pick that up. And as I showed you from the start, from my first attempt, which was awful, look at how bad that is. My second attempt, which was slightly better, but still not great, to my third attempt, which I was pretty happy with, but I didn't really like this color in the foreground. It doesn't look green enough to me. It looks grayer. So it was okay. To my, what is that? 1, 2, 3, fourth attempt, which I'm pretty happy with this one. I like that one. But then I will say I like this. I probably like this one better because I do like those trees. The mixture of the trees I'm not as happy with. I think I would have been happier with this one if I had stuck to just these kind of trees or just those kind of trees as opposed to the mixture of the two. And I do like that hillside stamp. I think it's really nice. It adds that intermediate between the way and the background. It makes the mountains look further back and a little more distant, which I do like. So I do like that, but you just have to be super careful about that you don't make it too dark, because then everything else that you put on top of it you can see the hillside through it. Like you can see it a little bit right here through the trunks of the trees, but I think I'm happiest with that one. So anyway, I hope you had fun watching me play. And I mean, the nice thing about this is once you do this, to make a card out of it, super simple. Glue it onto a nice dark green card base, done. So anyway, hope you enjoyed watching me play. And I'm a little inky. I guess I better go clean up. All right, have a good day. Bye.